The first sound she heard when she stepped through the front door wasn't my voice. It was his. Coming from the TV, crystal clear, volume set to 38. A little too loud for comfort. God, Jessa, you do that thing with your tongue and I lose my mind. Pause. She froze. Her suitcase thudded against the floor as she dropped it. Silence. The TV screen was frozen on a frame, her, half wrapped in a hotel sheet, grinning into some faceless man's shoulder. The timestamp glowed in the bottom right. 4:43 a.m. Friday. Same time she texted me. Miss you. Just fell asleep. These panels are exhausting. I was sitting on the armrest of the couch. Not the cushion, the armrest. That'll tell you how tense my body was. I'd been like that for 42 minutes. Just waiting. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Then she laughed. Not like a happy laugh. More like a startled hiccup trying to dress up as a joke. What is this? She said. Is this some kind of prank? Another press of the remote. Play. Tell your little tech boy husband I said thanks for the Apple Watch. I used it to time our rounds. Pause. Her hand clutched her neck like she could hide the heartbeat racing beneath it. No, she whispered. I didn't look at her. I stared at the TV. At her. Or the version of her I hadn't met before. The version with a different laugh, a different bedroom voice, a different kind of hunger in her eyes. You always said, I never watched enough of your shows, I murmured. So I figured I'd binge one while you were away. She stumbled forward. Nevin, this isn't what you think. Click, new file, new scene. This one was audio only, but the words were knives. He still folds your laundry? Man's practically your maid. Yeah, but he's useful. Pays the mortgage while I get the real fun. Pause. That was her voice. Plain as daylight. She stood there, halfway between our doormat and the ruins of our marriage. I had left her a very clear path. Either turn and leave, or step in and talk. She chose the worst third option. She sat down. Right there. On the shattered trust, the forgotten grocery list on the side table, the memory of last Tuesday's movie night. Please don't post this, she said. Please don't humiliate me. My lips curled, not into a smile, something more tired. Funny, I said. You weren't worried about that when you filmed it. She didn't cry. That was the first red flag. You'd expect tears, shock, pleading, bargaining, something. But Jessa? She just sat there on the edge of the coffee table, like a student waiting to be graded after failing the test. Her eyes were darting everywhere but my face. The silence between us was so thick, it felt like the room itself was holding its breath. I hadn't moved, still perched on the armrest, still clutching the remote like a detonator. I didn't even know what I wanted her to say. I just knew she had no script for this scene. Her precious improv skills, the same ones she used to charm clients and gaslight me over, forgetting her soy creamer, gone. You knew I'd find out, I said finally, my voice cracked. It betrayed me before I could steal it. You had to know. You left the cloud backup turned on. Jessa, you tagged me in a photo while you were with him. She looked at me then, not with shame, with calculation. Like she was doing emotional algebra in her head. How much to admit? How much to deny? Could this be spun? Could I be salvaged? You're overreacting, she said softly. It was stupid. I was drunk. It didn't mean anything. I laughed. I don't even know where it came from. One of those short, sharp, involuntary laughs that bursts out when your brain can't take the absurdity anymore. I watched 8 hours of you not meaning anything. She flinched at that. Good. Let her flinch. I cooked dinner every night while you were gone, I said, shaking my head. I made your favorite stuffed peppers. I even ran the dishwasher during off-peak hours like you were always nagging about. I played house while you were out starring in your own little drama. Jessa stood up then, slow and deliberate. So what now? You want me to leave? You want to punish me? You want revenge? That last word echoed. Revenge. And here's the part I'm not proud of. No, I said. I want you to sit down and watch it all with me. Her eyes widened. You're joking. Nope. Every file, every second. Sit next to me like we're watching another one of your dumb reality shows. She didn't move. I pressed play. The screen flickered to life again. This time, the video opened with her adjusting the camera angle, making sure it captured her good side. She didn't know it, but her reflection showed in the hotel mirror behind her, and his reflection too. shirtless, holding a bottle of champagne. She lunged for the remote. I snatched it back before she could touch it. Sit. Down. Her eyes burned. You're disgusting. I tilted my head. No, Jessa. I'm done being disgusting. That version of me, the doormat, the eager little puppy you kept around to pay bills and wash socks, he died somewhere between file number 5 and 6. She stood there for a long moment. Then slowly she sat, crossed her arms. We watched in silence. When her fake laugh echoed through the speakers, soft, breathy, the one she used to use on me, I didn't even flinch, but she did. And that was the first crack in her armor. The thing about watching someone betray you, really watching them, with eyes wide open and evidence playing out like a twisted home movie, is that something inside you changes, not in some poetic coming-of-age way. Number, it dies, quietly, like the click of a door that will never open again. We were 46 minutes into the footage when I noticed Jessa start to fidget, her jaw clenched slightly every time her voice came through the speakers. Not the words themselves, but the tone, like hearing your own voicemail, but worse. Like a version of yourself you didn't think anyone would ever see, stripped of filters, of plausible deniability. Her bravado had faded. She wasn't crossing her arms anymore. Now her hands were balled into fists in her lap, her legs tucked under her, like a guest overstaying their welcome in their own home. Why are you doing this? She asked, her voice low, trembling but not quite broken. I didn't look at her. Because I want to know how many versions of you exist, and how many I actually married. She didn't respond. The screen kept playing. Now it was a rooftop, soft jazz, city lights, her and him, toasting glasses of wine. She was wearing the necklace I gave her last Christmas, the one she swore she lost at the gym. Turns out, it hadn't been lost at all. It had been repurposed, rebranded for someone else's neck kisses and midnight promises. And that's when it happened, the first real crack. I never planned this, she said, barely audible. It just happened. I turned to her, slowly. It just happened? Like a sneeze? Like spilling coffee on your shirt? You don't accidentally rent hotel suites and whisper about your real life behind my back. She closed her eyes. Her shoulders curled inward. I could tell she wanted to vanish into the couch. You think I haven't made mistakes, Jessa? I asked, and now I was standing, pacing like a man on the edge. You think I didn't have chances? I've had women flirt with me. I've had colleagues drunk at conferences tell me their hotel room numbers. But I chose you, every single time, even when you made me feel like a guest in my own marriage. She flinched like I'd slapped her. I did choose you, she whispered. Just not all the time. That sentence hung in the air like smoke from a house still burning. Wow, I muttered. That's your defense? Sometimes I was loyal? I was lost, she said, louder now, desperate to find something that resembled control. I didn't feel seen. You were so wrapped up in your routines, in your systems and labels and apps. Everything in our life felt like a checklist. I stopped pacing. You're right, I said. I did try to control things. Because I thought that's how I could keep you, keep us. I organized, scheduled, cleaned, planned. I thought if I just gave you a perfect life, you'd stay in it. She didn't say anything, but I saw the shift in her expression. Shame. It was real now, not performative. I didn't want this to be real, I admitted, my voice finally cracking. I told myself maybe the messages were old. Maybe you were just venting. Maybe this guy was just an emotional outlet. But then I found the video folder labeled Inspiration, and inside it was a greatest hits collection of my own humiliation. She gasped. That folder was her mistake, her carelessness. I named it that for a reason, she said, suddenly tearful. I was trying to remember what it felt like to be wanted, so I wouldn't forget how to want you. That didn't make sense, or maybe it did, in the most sickening, broken way. But I didn't react. Not right away. I just walked over to the laptop sitting on the table, still open, still logged into the cloud drive she'd forgotten to unlink. And with one motion, I dragged the entire folder, photos, videos, messages, all of it, into the trash. Then emptied it. She lunged forward. What are you doing? I looked her in the eyes. I'm freeing myself, and I want you to watch that now. As the progress bar emptied, so did something inside her. Her mouth hung open, speechless for once. She hadn't realized what mattered most to her until it was gone. Not the affair, not the other man, the evidence. Because now, she couldn't even prove it happened. I thought deleting the folder would feel like a climax. Like the moment the courtroom slams the gavel and the villain gets dragged off. But there was no applause, no music, just the quiet hum of our refrigerator and the two of us standing in a room that suddenly felt too small for everything we weren't saying. Jessa didn't cry, not in the way you'd expect. She had this eerie calm about her, like someone watching their house burn down but still clutching the keys. She looked at the laptop like it was a coffin I'd nailed shut with one click. And maybe it was. That folder wasn't just evidence. It was her secret altar, her hidden escape hatch. She kept it close because it made her feel alive again, and I had just severed the lifeline. "Why would you do that?" she finally asked, voice thin, almost childlike. "You could have used it. Against me. You could have ruined everything." I didn't look up. I was still staring at the progress bar, even though it had vanished. "That's the point, Jessa. I don't want to ruin you. I want to stop carrying you. Every day since I found that folder, I've been dragging it through my thoughts like a suitcase full of knives. I need it gone. I need you gone." She blinked. "What are you saying?" I sighed, deep, longer than I intended. "I'm saying this house, this life. It's not a movie we can rewind and edit. I'm not going to make you sleep on the couch and pretend this is a rough patch. I'm not going to show up to family dinners with you on my arm, lying to everyone about how we worked through it. I'm not that kind of man." Her face crumpled, slowly, like paper in a fist. "Nevin, we can fix this. I'll go to therapy. I'll cut him off. I'll delete my accounts. We can do the hard part." I finally looked at her. "This was the hard part, Jessa, and you chose someone else for it." Her lips quivered, but I saw something flicker behind her eyes. Defensiveness, ego, maybe desperation. "You think I'm the only one at fault here? You think you're some flawless martyr?" "No," I said. "I think I'm a guy who begged for your attention for 3 years, who tried to compete with your phone for eye contact, who asked you to dance in the kitchen and got shrugged off like a telemarketer. I know I wasn't perfect, but I stayed. And you left a long time ago. You just kept your luggage here." The air between us cracked open. She walked to the kitchen, pretending she needed water. It was a performance. She wanted distance, even for just a second. But I wasn't finished. "You know the worst part?" I said, louder now, feeling the anger catch up to my composure. "It's not the cheating. It's not even the lying. It's that you made me feel boring, small, like a background character in the life I was building for both of us." She turned around, glass in hand, knuckles white. "Do you know what it's like to feel invisible in your own marriage?" she snapped. I didn't hesitate. "Yeah, I do. You taught me." We stood there, neither of us moving, just breathing in the wreckage. Years of shared grocery lists, holiday traditions, Spotify playlists, inside jokes. Dead on arrival. No ceremony, no eulogy. "I already signed the separation agreement," I said. "It's in your email. I talked to a lawyer. Everything's fair. I'm not taking the house. I'll go stay with my brother for a bit until the lease is up. You can keep the cat. She always liked you better anyway." Her voice came out hoarse. "That's it? You're just walking away?" I nodded. "Yeah, you already did. I'm just catching up." And I meant it. There was no part of me left that wanted revenge. No part that wanted her to grovel or confess or beg. I didn't even want closure. I wanted distance from her voice, her perfume, her chaos. I picked up my duffel bag, already packed, zipped, and sitting by the door since the night before. She must have thought it was from a gym trip or a weekend errand. It was neither. It was my exit. As I stepped outside, she didn't follow. She just stood there in the kitchen, clutching the glass of water like it might rewind time if she held it tight enough. The door clicked shut behind me, and for the first time in years, the silence felt like mine. It's strange how quickly a house forgets you. Just 3 days after I left, my key didn't feel like it fit the front door anymore. The welcome mat that once read, "Home is where the heart is," now looked like the punchline to a bad joke. My plants, God, even the plants seemed colder through the window. I knew I wasn't supposed to come back, but I had left behind a single flash drive tucked in a drawer in the study. Not a revenge folder, not blackmail, just something personal. A video of us, years ago, on our 3rd anniversary. Happy, silly, real. The kind of memory that now felt more like science fiction. But this isn't about the flash drive. It's about the man who knocked on the door while I was standing there, debating whether or not to ring the bell. He was younger, clean-cut, suit jacket too slim for a casual visit, holding a small black envelope. "Sorry," he said, clearly surprised to see me. "I thought this was Jess's place." "It is," I replied stiffly. "Not mine anymore." He raised an eyebrow. "You must be Nevin." That stopped me. "Do I know you?" He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "She mentioned you, once, said you were predictable." It wasn't just the words, it was the comfort with which he said them. Like he wasn't here to apologize or drop something off. Like he wanted me to know he had seen the parts of her I'd spent years trying to reach. "You her new business partner?" I asked, bitter sarcasm leaking out. He shrugged. "Something like that." That's when he handed me the envelope. I figured she'd pretend she never got this, and I didn't want to risk it ending up in the trash. It's sensitive. I didn't want to take it. Every inch of my body screamed walk away now. But curiosity has teeth, and mine were already sunk in. I opened the envelope in my car. No note, no explanation. Just a thick bundle of printed screenshots, text conversations, video stills, metadata tags. None from me, all from someone else. Jessa hadn't been cheating with one man. There were 4. Different cities, different names, different versions of herself. She wasn't living a double life. She was running a franchise. One message stood out, dated just 2 weeks ago. "You really think he suspects anything?" "Lol, no. Nevin, he's harmless. He's basically Alexa with a credit card." That one hurt more than the moaning videos, more than the mirror selfies and crumpled hotel sheets. Because it reduced me, not just as a husband, but as a person, a placeholder, a background noise she muted when real life called. The man in the suit, he had been one of them, maybe the last, maybe the most recent to realize he wasn't special either. He didn't come to warn me out of decency. He came because he needed me to know, because Jessa had left him behind too. And that's when I realized something. The damage she caused didn't end when I walked out the door. She had a whole collection of ex-lives trailing behind her, each one with their own story, their own ruin. I wasn't unique. I was just next in line. I didn't call her. I didn't confront her. I just printed every screenshot, placed them in a plain brown envelope, and dropped them in her mailbox that night. I wrote one sentence on the back. I wasn't predictable. I was patient. That's the last time I saw her house. The next morning, I got a single text. "You don't understand what I've been through." I didn't reply. What was left to say? But this story isn't over, not by a long shot. Because 2 weeks later, her boss called me. And what he said turned this from a marriage story into something far, far deeper. It started like any other Thursday. I was working remotely from my brother's guest bedroom, the same one that smelled like teenage ambition and old laundry detergent. I had just finished resetting a client's firewall when my phone buzzed. The number was unfamiliar, area code 415, San Francisco. I almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. "Is this Nevin Hallbridge?" the voice asked, sharp, precise, like a man used to commanding rooms. "Yes," I replied cautiously. "This is Alan Pierce. I'm the Director of Human Resources and Compliance at Haven Mark Solutions. Jessa Hallbridge, your wife, used to be employed here." Used to be? I sat up straighter. "I apologize for the abrupt call, but I'm reaching out due to an ongoing investigation related to Ms. Hallbridge's departure from our company. Your name came up during our review process." My blood went cold. "I haven't spoken to her since I moved out." "I understand," he said. "But we believe some of the data she removed from her work device may have originated from your private cloud. Specifically, a personal drive labeled archive.nevin.7z. That hit like a punch. That folder was encrypted, buried deep in my backup system. I hadn't touched it in years. It held client-side projects from freelance work, NDAs, some tax filings. But it wasn't hers. She shouldn't have had access, unless... She cloned my external drive, I said slowly, realization dawning like a slow horror. She borrowed my old laptop 2 months ago. Said hers had a bad update. Pierce exhaled. That makes sense. We discovered she'd uploaded that file, and others, to her company Dropbox, then tried to scrub the logs when her credentials were flagged for transferring restricted materials overseas. It triggered our audit. I felt like I was watching the floor disappear beneath my feet. What was she sending? He paused. We can't say with certainty, but some of it matches confidential contract data from our partners. International financials, development roadmaps, at least one signed agreement that was meant to be reviewed by legal only. She claimed it was inspiration material for a marketing pitch. My jaw clenched. Inspiration. That damn word again. So, what do you want from me? We're not pursuing legal action against you, Mr. Hallbridge, but our legal department may subpoena you to confirm you did not consent to sharing these materials. I didn't, I said immediately. None of it. There was a silence on the other end, the kind that stretches just long enough to warn you something bigger is coming. Then you may want to prepare yourself, he said carefully, because there's a chance federal investigators will be in touch. If she used your credentials or devices to move proprietary data, they'll want your statements. My stomach dropped. My name was going to end up in reports, transcripts, case logs, not just as the husband she betrayed, but now as the alibi she stole. I ended the call and sat frozen for what felt like an hour. Then I checked my old laptop. The hidden partition? Gone. Not erased, cloned. She had copied everything, then wiped her tracks. But not well enough. This wasn't just infidelity anymore. This was digital identity theft. Corporate espionage. And I had been her perfect pawn. Predictable, reliable, invisible. A husband she could use as a smokescreen while she played a whole different game behind my back. I opened my email and began writing a statement. The truth in full. I attached logs, timestamps, the evidence I still had. No more hesitation. No more shielding her. She didn't just betray a marriage. She betrayed me, the person, the professional, the one man who still believed she was capable of being better. And then I did something I hadn't done since this nightmare started. I called my mother because the next person I needed to warn was Jess's family, and I had no idea what they were about to find out. I hadn't spoken to Jess's parents in over 6 months, not since that awkward Thanksgiving dinner where her mother passive-aggressively asked if we'd ever give her a reason to crochet baby socks. Her dad had nodded silently through the entire meal, like a man who'd accepted a long, slow sinking. Jessa always said they were old-fashioned, which was code for emotionally repressed, but polite enough to avoid questions. When I called, it wasn't to make peace. It was a warning shot. But I didn't expect what was about to unfold. Her mother, Dana, answered after the 3rd ring. Nevin? Her voice was tight, suspicious, like she already assumed I was calling to blame their daughter for something. I'm sorry to bother you, I said, trying to sound calm. But something serious is happening. Jess's former employer reached out to me. She's under investigation for leaking company data, possibly using my information to do it. There was a long pause, longer than I expected. I braced myself for the usual denial, for Jessa would never do that, or you must be mistaken. But Dana didn't say either. In fact, when she spoke, her tone had shifted. I was wondering when something like this might happen, she said quietly. I sat up straighter. What do you mean? Another pause. Then, Nevin, have you ever heard the name Melanie Shore? Number, should I have? She was Jessa's college roommate. They were inseparable during undergrad, until Jessa was caught accessing Melanie's research grant files and using her login to apply for an independent scholarship. The dean covered it up, too embarrassing for the school, and Melanie didn't press charges. She just left. I couldn't speak, Dana went on. There was always something in Jessa, a restlessness. When she was 15, she hacked into the school's grading portal and changed 3 of her friends' test scores. Not to give herself better grades, just to see if she could. The principal wanted to expel her. Her father convinced them not to. I never knew, I said, stunned. No one did. We buried it all, kept thinking she'd grow out of it. She was so bright, so ambitious. We told ourselves it was just creative energy, that she'd channel it one day. But she didn't, I said. Number. She learned to hide it better. Dana's voice cracked then. It wasn't grief, it was exhaustion. We thought marrying you would settle her, ground her. You were stable, Nevin, predictable. We thought that would fix the chaos in her. There it was again. That word. Predictable. It kept surfacing like a bad penny. Maybe I had been predictable, but maybe that's exactly what she sought. Not love, not companionship, a cover, a mask to wear when the real version of her wanted to do damage elsewhere. She always spoke of you like an equation, Dana said quietly. You were dependable, logical, safe, but never with affection, just utility. I closed my eyes, sinking into the silence. I need to ask you something, I said finally. Did she ever hurt anyone? Dana hesitated. Not physically, but emotionally, psychologically. There are some bridges she burned that never recovered. A cousin she ghosted after borrowing thousands. An ex-boyfriend who tried to sue. But it always ended the same way. She'd twist it. She'd cry. She'd say she was misunderstood. And people believed her because she was beautiful, because she sounded convincing. She sighed, long and brittle. We enabled it. I didn't know what to say. I thanked her for her honesty. And before we hung up, she said one last thing. Please, Nevin, don't try to fix her. It's what everyone else tried. You'll only lose yourself. When the call ended, I sat motionless for a long time. All those years we spent together, every inside joke, every shared vacation, every I love you, I realized they were memories I had made alone. She'd been playing a role, I'd been watching a performance, and now the curtain was finally, fully down. But what I didn't know yet, what no one saw coming, was that someone else had been watching the show too. Not me, not her parents, not even the guy who handed me the envelope. It was someone who had been tracking Jessa for years, and they were about to reach out. The email came late at night, around 2:17 a.m. I wasn't sleeping much by that point. Too much whiplash in my mind between grief and something eerily close to relief. The subject line was short, all lowercase. You deserve to know. It was from a burner address, no signature, just a message and a file attached. The message read, "She did the same thing to me. She took 2 years of my life. I've been watching her unravel ever since. I thought I wanted revenge, but maybe peace is a better ending. You seemed like a decent man. You didn't deserve any of it." The attachment was a collection of scanned documents, some legal filings, email chains, a therapy affidavit from a man in Seattle. Another life, another Nevin. A different name, but the same story. He had almost married her. She drained his savings, left just before the wedding, forged his signature to open credit in his name. She got away clean, except now she wasn't getting away. She had tripped over her own web. I forwarded the file to the investigators and closed the lid of my laptop for good. That was the last move I made in any of it. No revenge, no press, no expose. I walked away. A year later, I live in Oregon, about 20 minutes outside of Bend. I bought a small fixer-upper with a wraparound porch and enough land to forget I was ever part of something so suffocating. I work part-time in cybersecurity consulting, mostly remote, and I've started hiking again. I'd forgotten what silence felt like when it wasn't dangerous. Jessa, I don't know where she is. I don't care. I heard through someone at Havenmark that she took a plea deal to avoid federal charges. That's the last I needed to know. But something changed in me, something deep. Not bitterness, not distrust, something more like clarity. I started volunteering on weekends at a local youth mentorship program, teaching basic coding to teenagers who have never seen themselves as smart. One of them, a girl named Yara, asked me why I spent my Saturdays helping kids instead of doing rich. Tech guy stuff. I told her the truth. Because it's easier to fix code than people, but maybe you help the next person make better choices. She just nodded, like she got it more than I expected. Last week, I got a letter in the mail, handwritten, no return address. It said, "You were never boring. You were just real. I couldn't handle real. I hope you find someone who can." No signature, but I didn't need one. I burned it without a second thought. And then I made dinner, poured a glass of wine, and sat on my porch watching the sunset bleed across the trees. Peace doesn't come with fireworks. It comes quietly. When you stop trying to rewrite the ending and just write a new story instead. Mine starts now.